Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host, Brett
Gilliland. Brett Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland. Today, I've got Lewis McKinney with me. Lewis, how you doing?
Brett, I'm doing good today. Thanks for asking.
Well, thanks for being here. And thanks to Alonzo Bird over here for the introduction, man. Alonzo and I, we're on like 2 or 3 boards together. Like we're board buddies. That's what we do. We sit on boards together. Well, Lewis, thanks for being here. You are the SLU standout basketball player from the late 70s, averaged 20 points a game, 20 plus points a game over the last 2 seasons of your career. A 40-inch vertical, I see. Can we still do that? No,
Brett, I want to be careful when I answer that.
Drafted by the Boston Celtics. Turned executive at AB for 28 years. You ended up there as the vice president of government affairs and now the founder at Caring Plus Incorporated. But before we dive into all that great stuff, Lewis, what has helped make you the man you are today?
Brett, I'd have to attribute all of my success to my upbringing. I'm one of 12 kids. So
what
Karen
number?
And Sharon, I'm number 6.
Okay.
6 boys, 6 girls. So I was fortunate to be born into such a loving family, Brett. So my whole makeup of who I am is based upon we had to love and care and share everything that we had. We're from very meager financial beginnings.
Yeah.
My mom and dad, they struggled. They were born in the Jim Crow South, relocated to St. Louis and started this large family.
Wow.
We were very meager in terms of our finances. So we had to make a way out of no way a lot. And that sharing and caring, it just instilled in me that no matter what you have, you can share with others.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate to have had the careers in athletics as well as in corporate America that I was able to take away from there some resources that I can now share with others who are trying to address some of the most neediest situations we have in America right now, which is housing, affordable housing. And so I'm happy that I'm able to focus and make a contribution in that area.
Well, that's great. And we'll dive into that work that you're doing. But let's talk a little bit about the backstory. So you grew up here in St. Louis. Obviously, you don't just show up to SLU, so you must have been a good high school basketball player. And did you have other thoughts of going somewhere else? And what made you pick SLU? And talk about the importance of SLU for you.
Well, I was very fortunate, Brad, in that I was born with abilities to persevere and to be determined and to work really, really hard. And I was a part of a pretty good high school program, Central High School, but I worked really, really hard at basketball, and I was one of the last 2020 guys probably in the public high school league, and I was fortunate to have 110 scholarship offers. I actually signed a letter of intent to attend the University of Kansas, but I thought about it. Being from such a large family, I really wanted the support of my family during my collegiate career. And quite frankly, I'm a St. Louis guy, and I wanted to continue to give back to a community where I came from. And so I made that investment in St. Louis University.
That's amazing.
Yes.
A guy with 110 contracts, they probably would have backed the NIL money back up to this guy 40 years later, wouldn't they?
I love that being the case.
Exactly. What do you think about that? What do you think about the NIL right now?
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that some of the programs, as you well know, that are very competitive, that do it really, really well financially, and these kids have helped those programs do well financially. And to share some of that with them, I think it's very good.
Yeah, I think it's neat too. I think there's pros and cons to it, just like everything in life, right? Mm-hmm. But I think what I saw, the disparity between like the teams, that just always dominated versus now these teams down here that are beating these guys. And my son is my oldest. I have 4 boys. My oldest is a freshman at Mizzou, so I followed the SEC football a lot closer than normal.
Sure.
You saw those guys at the bottom beating the guys at the top, and I think that probably comes because of the NIL and the transfer portal.
I think that's absolutely correct. The NIL portal is going to mean a lot for guys who are seasoned, in my opinion. I don't think I would like coming out of high school right now and trying to go to college, because you've got these guys who are proven, and some of these guys who have had some pretty substantial careers in college that are all filling in these spots in the portal. Yeah. And so a kid coming out of high school now, it's got to be very, very challenging if you're not just an outstanding player.
Yeah. I was watching the Kentucky-Clemson game with a couple of my boys and my wife last night, and I think one of the guys was a sixth-year player.
Yeah.
You're right, and you're like, holy, this is a 23-year-old kid playing against an 18-year-old kid.
That's exactly right.
Or a 23-year-old man.
That's exactly right. That makes it very, very tough. And you can only imagine, not basketball, but football, you got a 23-year-old man competing against an 18-year-old kid.
Yep.
I think some of the basketball powerhouses and football powerhouses, they're going to feel the effects of that portal adversely.
Yep.
More so than how it could have benefited them in the past when they had open recruiting.
Absolutely.
Right.
So talk about, so you had a great career, like I said, averaged 20-plus points over your last 2 seasons. You get drafted by the Boston Celtics. That's a lifetime dream, I'm sure. And then the freak accident happens, man. Tell our listeners about that and what happened.
Well, it was a pickup basketball game, Brett. It was 2 days before I was to head off to camp. And a finger in the eye. Going for a rebound and received a finger in the eye, and it was over in the flash of an eye, so to speak. I was immediately blinded. It took me almost a year to recover from the surgery. I was diagnosed with a detached retina with 2 massive tears and pretty much the adverse impact on the optic nerve, so the eye was lost.
Yeah.
It took me a year to recover, and I was fortunate enough, Brett, to be determined and put in the work, and I went back to play professional basketball after the eye injury.
Wow.
I played in the CBA. I started off in Hartford, Connecticut. The next season, I started off in Great Falls, Montana, and from there was invited to come to France to play during the French playoffs, and I took that opportunity, and I stayed in France another 3 years. So I had a real good professional basketball career. It wasn't the one I had hoped for in the NBA, but it was very good. It was very enlightening, and it really helped develop me in terms of where I wanted to put my energies going forward after athletics.
Well, I think that shows you what kind of athlete and determination you've got. I mean, I know my father-in-law lost an eye a number of years ago in a stroke, and thank God other than that, he's been fine. But, I think just even reaching for something, right? You hit your hand for a while, or you don't see something coming from this side. So to play basketball blind on half the side, I mean, tell me about that.
Well, with one eye, you lose all of your depth of perception, right? Yeah. With 2 eyes, of course, you have great depth of perception. But I had a touch of muscle memory in the brain. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about what it takes to persevere, right? And the brain helped to compensate through muscle memory, what it felt like to shoot certain distances and what it felt like, in terms of, what could be possible. And so I was able to continue to be a good basketball player even with one eye.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about muscle memory later, because I think that's a good point. I think that can go from basketball to work. Yeah. Right, muscle memory. And so, but I think the one thing doing my research I loved was the advice your mom gave you, right? Because you could have easily gone and had this pity party.
That's right.
And everybody could have felt sorry for you, 1 of 12 and this poor kid, right? But what advice did your mom give you?
Well, she told me, she said, you could do it, son. Don't give up. Even with one eye. She said, you can make it in this world. And I took that with me, and I continue to live by that today, right? With what I do today, it's based upon some of the disciplines I learned through athletics and through my life's experiences. And that is that if you work hard, and even though you may not be successful, you're working towards success, and you have to keep that up. Yeah. And that's why I endeavor, Brett.
Yeah. How about the attitude?
You got to have the right attitude, right? So I'm going to transition back to my corporate career, and I worked really, really hard in corporate America, which is why I had so many great opportunities for advancement. But I was of the impression that the team that won't be beat can't be beat. And I took that from my early athletic lessons, right? And so I would work really, really hard. I'll work most of my competitors in athletics as well as in corporate America.
Writing that down. The team that won't be beat
can't be beat.
Can't be beat.
That's
like
right,
that.
Sir.
And that leads me to one of my questions I had for you. Working with big corporate America, what do you think in your opinion, what do you think you did well that helped you climb the ranks and get to the level that you got to at Anheuser-Busch?
Well, it's the self-discipline in corporate America that really helps you have an opportunity for growth. And what I did was to analyze that here's the thing that helps move this company forward, and how do you make your greatest contribution in that area? And of course, we were a product that we had other competitors, but what I saw the difference was I could go in and make a difference in terms of how we could help to maximize those opportunities through my efforts. And that meant a lot to the sales team, because I didn't work in sales, I worked in government affairs. But I understood that if I removed barriers and I created opportunities where we could have a competitive advantage, it meant a lot to the company. And it's the same way in which I approach my athletics. I realized that through conditioning, I needed to be able to make the free throws when it was tough, when it was late in the game. I realized how many games were decided by 1 or 2 points. And I realized that difference was the guy who was in shape, who had just enough energy that he could push past a guy with a half a step at the end to either get his shot off or go to the free throw line and make the free throws. Yeah. So that's always been what I see to be my advantage against most of those who I've worked with and worked against, is that I was willing to put in the work to outwork them.
How did you stay a student of the game? I mean, there's obviously lots to learn, and pick on your corporate job for a second, but how did you stay a student of the game? Was there a morning routine? Was there certain things that you did to try to help yourself get to that level?
Well, for sure. So one of the things I did to make sure that I was working to gain a competitive advantage in athletics is conditioning. I worked really, really hard. And I understood, you talked about my 40-inch vertical earlier. Well, I worked at it. I went out and I put in the efforts in terms of how do you get yourself off the ground? How do you do the things that help with your footwork and your agility and your quickness? And those who may remember my athletics, which was a long, long time ago, I was a very astute in terms of my fundamentals of my footwork. And I knew once that I could get the advantage over you through my footwork, I had you beat. And even in corporate America, I was at work early and I stayed late. And I knew I was gaining a competitive advantage in that arena as well, because it would pay dividends. And as I stated, it helped me to better understand how I add the greatest value to my organization.
Yeah. So let's turn the page now to Caring Plus Incorporated. Tell us a little bit about that. What is it that you're doing? How you helping serving the community here in St. Louis?
Well, after retirement, and I'll call it rewirement, I discussed that with my friend Alonzo Bird. I said, we got to coin this phrase, not retirement, but rewirement. Because
I think you guys got to trademark that.
I retired at what I considered to be a relatively early age. I still had a lot of fuel left, a lot of energy, and I wanted to get back to a community that had given me so much. A community that had helped to rear me, a community that had helped me to have hope and to understand the values of working hard. And so I looked at our situation in our communities, and I said, I got to make a difference to affordable housing. I mentioned earlier I was one of 12 kids. Well, I grew up in public housing. And when you grow up in public housing, you get a lot of life lessons. And one is hard work, discipline, but also the caring and the sharing part. And I realized that as a family, when we transitioned from public housing to our own residential housing, it gave us a completely different mindset in terms of what the future can be. And I know people who are trapped in situations where the housing is not good. It really creates a burden for them in their mindset and their approach to daily living. So when I retired, I wanted to give back, and I saw here's an opportunity for affordable housing. I can only do so much, but everything I can do is going to add value to communities where affordable housing, quality affordable housing, is not readily available.
Yeah. We talked about attitude earlier. So the circuits of success, so your attitude, your beliefs, and your actions that ultimately get results, right? And then once all four of those are happening, that circuit is on. The light bulb, right, shines. If you take one of them away, it doesn't work. And so talk about for you the belief system in this idea, because a lot of us can have an idea and then we don't make that idea come real, right? And so I think the first building, 40-something units were in it, and then there was one across the street, 30-something units in it. So how do we, as people listening to this, driving down the road right now and listening, say, okay, I've got this idea. how do I believe in the idea? How do I take action on the idea and turn that idea into reality?
Well, first of all, you have to have some vision. So a lot of people call me a visionary because
you're at Visionary Wealth Advisors, just so you know. I mean, so hey, I think that's pretty cool. It's the name of our wealth management firm.
I love it. And that's so clearly I'm sitting with the right guy who
Exactly.
understands what I'm talking about. And that is vision, right?
Yeah.
So I had the vision that I can make a difference. And the vision that I had was I want to take this community that is somewhat neglected, and I want to create affordable housing. And so what I did was I sat down and I analyzed what the situation is, what the opportunities are, and I made the investment in terms of what will it take to make this property, bring value to the community again. And it was blighted. It was blighted community. It was an archdiocese property holding that it had been shuttered. So through my acquisition, I then started the work of what's it going to take to get the community to work with me and to embrace with me what I foresee for the future. And that's exactly what I did. I went to the city and we talked about, here's what the opportunities are, here's what I want to do, and this is the wherewithal that I bring to the table.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And what it makes me think of is the belief in self, but also belief in others, right? Yes. So we can't do the things we want to do at a high level, in my opinion, all by ourselves. Right? We think we can build a wealth management firm or a law firm or buildings for people to live in. You can't do it alone. So talk to us about the two different parts of that belief. Belief in self, how important is that? And belief in others and getting the right people on the bus with you.
Well, I like that, Brett. So, I don't play an individual sport like golf. Golf's a great game, right? I wish I did, but I'm much better at working within a team, right? Yep. So I recognize that there are many roles that have to be filled, and you need to have quality people that can assist you. So I had a great family from the beginning, and I knew what that was like to fit into a family and what role I needed to play to help enhance the quality of life for my family. So when I looked at every opportunity I've had, whether it's in athletic, corporate America, and now in what I'm doing and giving back, I knew I needed the support of my friends. Yep. So I went to my friends and I asked them, what do you see? How do you see we can add value in this community, enhancing the quality of life? And so we took a look at exactly how do you do that. I asked friends to join me, and I've got a great board that's made up primarily of friends. Mm-hmm. And, friends want to help friends, right? And they see me wanting to give back, and so they bought into wanting to help me. And each of them plays a specific role on my board. I have people who help me strategize in terms of how do we not just finance, but build and develop, but then market it as well. Yep. And then how do we add value to the people that we want to put into the property? Because a lot of times, if you put the wrong persons together, it's not a concert. It becomes something that's not very well functioning. And so it takes all of that working together to get it done. So I think in terms of being most successful is that I have the ability to envision what needs to take place. And then I have the ability to go out and to assemble the team that can help me bring this to reality. Yeah. So you have to be organized, you have to be disciplined, and then you have to go out kind of like athletics. Once again, I keep falling back and making that analogy, but you have to have the good leadership, you have to have the discipline, you have to have the hard work to make it happen.
And I think too is you got to be crazy enough to believe that it can happen, right?
I was called crazy a couple times before I started this endeavor, right?
Yeah. When we started Visionary Wealth Advisors, I read a quote literally every day. It's actually in the back of my journal here, and it says the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Right, Steve Jobs said that at Apple, and you think of the dent in the universe that they made. That's on a much smaller scale than Apple, but that's what we're all trying to do, right? Make a dent in the universe, but be crazy enough to believe it, and that's what you've done. Fair?
And likewise, Brett, I've heard a lot about the work that you're doing in terms of giving back as well. Now, clearly, you've made it as an individual, but you're bringing along other people as a part of your organization. But not only that, you're not for profit and what you're doing to give back. So I want to applaud you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
To make a difference in others' lives as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So how do people get involved in your organization? And also, before we even go there, actually, who are the people that you are supplying housing to? And then what's that process like to get involved so they can maybe get one of those places?
So our initial efforts were to provide quality, affordable housing for seniors, but now we've expanded that to include families. So I'm very happy that we just finished a 31 residential housing development where we now have 31 families living in 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,400 square foot homes in the city of St. Louis.
Love it.
So we're very excited about that. We have a total of 154 senior units right now. They're all 2 bedrooms, all very energy efficient, and it's all very affordable housing. To qualify for a housing is based upon your income. And then, of course, we're excited that we can provide the accessible housing for people who need it the most. Yeah. And that's seniors.
I love that.
Yeah.
What great work, man. What great vision. What any upcoming projects you're excited about?
Well, of course, we never stop, Brett. I'm at a point where I think I'd like to stop, but really, God's in control, kind of like what you're doing here. I mean, I'm sure you never intended to do some of the things you're doing, but, if you do something well, God says, well, we got something else for you to do.
That's right.
So we've got a lot of projects on the table, and we hope to continue to provide quality, affordable housing, not just in Missouri, but we're also now looking in Illinois.
Yeah, I love it. Come on over to the God's side, right? God's side of the river here, God's country here. And you can hear hopefully it doesn't show up in the microphones, but you can hear the construction noises going on back here. So that's to your point, man. There's always something else going on. So we've got a cool members-only experience going on over here called Beyond. But it's to help people achieve a future greater than your past. So when you see these stickers on the microphone, that's our vision and that's our mission as a firm, is to help people achieve a future greater than your past. So when you hear that, what comes to mind for you?
Well, I love it. If you're going to conceive a future better than your past, greater than your past, I like that, right? Because that's kind of the mission that I think most successful people are on. That they wanna continue to enhance the quality of their life, and they're willing to make the investment now so they can have a greater future. Yeah. So I'm very encouraged by that slogan. I'm very encouraged by the work that you're doing.
Awesome.
Hopefully, when I get a podcast, I'll have you on.
There you go.
Share with me some of the benefits of your experience.
You can come and use our amazing studio here anytime you want. So, fears. I always ask this question to people as well: is how many of the fears that you've put in your mind, right? False evidences that appear real appear. How many of those that you've put in your mind have actually blown up to the magnitude you put them in your mind to be?
0, Brett, because I'm not intimidated by the possibilities of the future. I deal with what's in front of me and I move on. We've had some challenges. Of course, we're not perfect, but we've had some challenges and we strive for excellence. Yeah. And we continue to provide in the work that we do qualitative changes for people who need it the most. And it's not just through affordable housing, but we do wellness, we do health, we do financial literacy. We're working hard to make a difference in people's lives. And we understand that in home transferring into some home ownership, because I didn't mention that, but we also provide home ownership opportunities. And thank God we've been able to provide 41 home buyers an opportunity for new home buyer ownership. So we take them through a whole training program in terms of homeowner literacy. Yes.
And for those of you watching, you may not, hopefully you can't hear this. I don't know what they're doing over there, but it sounds like they're drilling through the dang the floor, which I think they are. They're putting some drains in. So my apologies if you can hear that. Right. And my apologies to you. I thought they would be done with that. So talk about that again. You said I'm not scared of the future. I only focus on what's in front of me. Talk to that individual right now that needs to hear this, right? How do we not focus on the future though? How do we not get scared of something that's out there? How did you do that, and what would you recommend?
Well, I think it's preparation. I talked about earlier about the discipline and the hard work and the condition that I put in when I was an athlete, but I think it's the same in every walk of life that you're in. You have to prepare. You have to go in and put in the work, and understanding that you're prepared, and with preparation meets opportunity, it can equal success. So you can't be afraid of the unknown. You can't be afraid of what if I don't have the answers to the questions immediately. You prepare yourself based upon your current experiences, and you anticipate, there'll be some questions I don't have, but let me answer those questions based upon my experience and what my whole discipline is.
Yeah. talk to the other people as well as, like I'm sure we're a lot alike to where successful people, you have a lot of ideas that come into your mind nonstop, right?
Yes.
And so how do you pick and choose which great idea that you're going to do, and what's that process like for you?
Well, that's discernment is what you're describing, correct? And of course, like yourself, I have opportunities that prevail themselves to me on a regular basis, but I also try to stay within what I consider to be where I'm most capable of making some impact. And so if someone were to ask me to teach golf, I'd probably tell them I'm not the one that wants to teach golf.
Right.
But if you want to develop affordable housing, if you want to figure out how can you make a difference in people's life and make people feel good about you working with them, let me help you out in that regard. So that's my approach to life, Brett. One of the things I've learned along the way through teamwork is that if you have the right people on your team with the right skill set, you can create a successful path forward. And so I would say that as you look to grow in your future, assess exactly what your abilities are, assess exactly where you think it's best that you engage a consultant, someone who has the expertise and the experience in areas where you're lacking.
Yeah.
And you build that teamwork, and that's how you make a difference.
Yeah. Makes me think about staying in your lane. And I think when you're younger in your career, you don't want to look like if let's say I was trying to sell you on something, I don't want to come across like I don't know what I'm talking about, right?
Sure.
But what I found in my career, and I'm sure you would agree with this, is that the more I stay in my lane and just be okay with saying, I don't know, but let me find the person that can help you with that. Would you agree with that? Did you see that in corporate America as well?
Yeah, I think, once you become comfortable with what you don't know, and what you do know, I think that's also a very much a good way to live your life. And don't be afraid to tell people you don't know.
Yeah.
And but I can refer you to others, or I can help you in terms of getting the information that you need to make the right decision, right?
And what I found is if you say, I don't know, but let me find the right person and then connect and then they make it happen, right?
Yeah.
That's what they care about. It's like, oh, man, he didn't know that, but he got me this. He introduced me to Alonzo who does know that, right? Like, that's the big deal. So,
well, I work very closely with a number of different types of experts in the work that I do. I have to have a good legal team. I have to have a good engineering team. I have to have a good architectural team. I have to have a good general contracting team. And my job is to bring all those people together for the greater good in terms of what our project is. So I think,
and get out of the way, right?
Yeah, you have to get out of the way, right? I have to let the lawyers do their work, and I have to let the architect do their work. And of course, I get the opportunity to look it over. That's the discernment in terms of my vision on how does this come together to make my project a success.
I love it.
Yep.
So let's go back to that muscle memory you talked about for basketball. And what it sparked in my memory was when I was a young financial advisor and we're giving presentations to potential clients. And it was one of those, I could just do it in my sleep, right? And that's that muscle memory to you. Same thing, right? I shoot a free throw. I know exactly what it's like. And I coach basketball and I talk to the kids all the time. It's muscle memory. Like, what did that feel like? Put it in your mind, right? And just keep doing that shot. But I think, let's talk about the business side of that. Don't you think that professionals have to do that same quote unquote muscle memory, that same free throw shot day in and day out with whatever they're doing at work every day?
I think that's true, Brett. But I think also not just being a good coach and developing the muscle memory, but also if you've got stretch goals that support that muscle memory, I think you can do the same thing day in and day out with the muscle memory, but with the hope that you're going to stretch and you're going to develop the other support systems that you need so that you not just make the free throw, but you can get the rebound.
That's right.
That you can play defense, that you can make the pass, right?
I love it.
And that's what makes the complete player, right? And I'm sure the most highly successful people, they have the complete set of skills that they need to be successful, which includes discernment, which includes the recognition of what they don't know and what they need to know and where to go get the information that they don't have.
Yep, that's right. Being humble enough to know that you need to get the information, right?
That's right.
What's been the most rewarding part of the work that you're doing now?
Well, Brett, I mean, it goes without saying, when we complete a project and we start to turn the keys over to the people who are going to be moving into their new living conditions, it warms my heart, right? It lets me know that God gave me a mission and it's mission accomplished, right? And so I look forward to the next one, right? I don't linger, but when we pass those people those keys and they move into those new homes, and a lot of them for the first time, they're living in some very high quality housing, it does my heart good, and it reinforces what I learned as a member of a family of 12, that I've helped someone else, and I know my family's proud of me. Yeah.
Talk to that. This just kind of came into my mind, but talk to that person that's 1 or 2 or 3 years away from retirement right now. Let's use your word instead of retirement. We're going to rewirement, right?
Absolutely.
And talk to that person. How long has it been since you quote unquote retired from
2010?
Okay, so 14 years, coming on 15 years. Yeah. You could have sat back, probably kicked the feet up, sat on the beach a little bit, traveled here and there, and done whatever you wanted to do, right? Yeah. But yet you chose to put on the work boots, right? Roll the sleeves up and do all this stuff. How rewarding has it been for you? And what advice would you have for that person that's either at retirement or getting ready to retirement about that next phase of their life?
I was fortunate enough about the time I was retiring, I became familiar with a quote from Winston Churchill. And Winston Churchill said, "You make a living by what you get. You make a life by what you give."
So solid.
And so it was my time to step up to the plate and to take all the benefits of my experience and all the earnings that I had made and to share those with others. And that was my springboard in terms of rewirement. I was moving from basketball, moving from corporate America, and moving into a capacity where I wanted to give back. So I contemplated, I figured it out, and I got started. And it started us again with an assessment with my friends in terms of how do I best do that.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. So now what I'm working on is that this will continue. This is a legacy that I've started, but I want this legacy to continue. So I'm developing young people, and I'm still reaching out, building a network, that this will be in place that when I'm no longer able to do it, the contributions that we're making will continue to grow.
Well, I love it. You just took my last two questions in that one answer, which is solid. I said, what's your vision now and what's the legacy you want to leave behind, right? Yeah. But I think that's important. You're helping that next generation so this thing can continue 100 years from now.
Absolutely, Brett. Yeah. I mean, as you well know, we in America have been blessed in that this is a country of significant courage. A lot of people have made unbelievable sacrifices and contributions to get this country to where it is today and to get this world to where it is. And I think we have to do our part to help to add value in that regard and to leave the world a better place than where we found it when we came into it. And that's my effort every day.
If we could all live that vision and that plan, then we'd be in a very good spot. Where do our listeners find more of Lewis McKinney?
Well, Brett, our website is acaringplus.org.
Okay.
You can reach our offices to 314-930-2230. That is our corporate office.
Awesome.
And again, we're available on the website, and we will welcome anyone who would like to come in and give us a hand in terms of our mission.
We love it. We love it. Well, Lewis, thank you so much for being on the Circuit of Success. Alonzo, thank you for the introduction, my man. It's been awesome. What a great interview, and appreciate all you're doing for the city of St. Louis and for all those individuals you're helping, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Brett. It's been an honor and a pleasure.